Hey, it's Peter Vugan. I really just want to dive right in. My guest today came to the U.S. as an immigrant from Iran in 1990 and has become one of the most powerful and impactful entrepreneurs of this generation. He's the definition of walking the walk when most people right now are not walking the walk. And he's one of the few entrepreneurs I follow and respect and take advice from. He's built one of the fastest growing financial companies in the US in a very crowded marketplace. And what I respect about him most is his consistency, his tenacity, and his relentless growth mentality. I don't know if you know this, but last time we connected, you had 630,000 subscribers on Valuetainment. You now have over 2 million. That's rapid growth. He's passionate about shaping the next generation of leaders and really has disrupted the traditional approach to business and career. And I want to say, man, I appreciate you, brother. You don't need to be doing things like this because of your YouTube channel. Your company's crushing it. You're crushing on social media, but I appreciate you. So Patrick Bet-David, welcome, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
You protect your time at the highest level, but you also give back. And you're kind of a breath of fresh air to the entrepreneur world, to this industry. You're not just interviewing entrepreneur people, it's mob bosses, athletes, political figures, celebrities. So I just love watching your stuff. And also, I never realized, I wouldn't have pictured you being a Jagged Edge fan.
Die hard. I mean, die hard Jagged Edge fan.
That was one of my favorite groups of all time back in the day. How funny, man. I mean,
you could have used their music for a breakup, for going on a date, for anything. It could have been used for many different things.
I love it, man. So I want to, this is a crazy time, an interesting time, and a time we haven't really seen. I don't want to talk too much about things that are already on your YouTube because I want people to check that out. Thoughts on cash, how to protect your income. I've watched those videos and I highly recommend that. But I want to go a different direction. But first, what are your thoughts right now just on the state of the economy and the state of entrepreneurship in general?
Well, I think it's the best time ever for me. If you think about business-wise, here's what's going to happen right now is times like this filter people out, meaning you have 2001, you have 2008, you have today. 2001 was a black swan. Nobody woke up and thinking 9/11 was going to happen. I think everybody in the world knew exactly where they were at when 9/11 took place. I was working on Morgan Stanley Dean Witter when that happened. It's 9/11. 6:30, I'm on my office, the broker in the corner says, turn on the monitor, we look at the TV, it's our headquarters, then we watch the second plane hit, and then you have 2008, which a lot of experts could have predicted. They kind of knew what was happening with the loans, and then again, today, we can't predict this. Some people could have predicted it, but some people didn't know when it was going to happen with a pandemic. But at the same time, it is a filtering system. There's three types of people right now in the world, specifically people that are in the U.S., but all over the world. Number one are those that are going to wait for a bailout to help them out. I'm going to get my check. I can't wait to get my check. I can't wait to get my unemployment. This is great. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to catch up on my Netflix. I'm going to catch up. I'm going to binge watch this. No problem. That part never changes. The second group are those that are not being affected. You're almost looking at them saying, how come these people are not worried? Why are they walking around as if everything's okay? Everything's not okay. Well, to them is okay. Because in 08, maybe they lost big time and they didn't want it to happen a second time. Or in 01, they lost, so they're prepared. They're sitting on millions of dollars of cash and they're doing fine. They're, making their own decision. Doesn't mean they didn't lose any money. They lost money, but they're not hit by it in a big way. So they're going to be able to methodically make their next move. And then you have the third group. Let me talk about the third group. The third group are those that I don't know why this is, Peter. I mean, you've written, I think you read a book, 6 Figures in 6 Months, something like that. You wrote a book and it was a big hit. A lot of my guys were reading. It was a great book you wrote.
Thank you.
I don't know why this is. I just feel we need bad times to shape us and to test us to see who we really are. I don't know why we need friction. It's almost like every single one of my friendships that I have or relationships that we had, it became great after a falling out. I don't know why. It became great after big differences. It became a husband and wife before they date, first 2 years, so many different fights, and then boom, maybe this can work out long term. Today, we're going to see the next Elon Musks. We're going to see the next Zucks, the next Jobs, the next whoever 5-10 years from now are being born today. I don't know why this kind of takes place. I remember years ago, I was at Saddle Ranch in LA, and I'm at a nightclub. My buddies and I, 4 of us are there. Out of the four, three of us were in the Army together. One of us wasn't. So we go to the club, and one of my friends, he was always the one that he had a philosophy. He goes to the club. He's either going to meet a girl, or if he doesn't, he fights. And I hated it because, you know, you have friends like that, that if they don't, they're upset. They want to go into a fight with somebody because they're drunk or whatever. So this guy doesn't meet a girl that night. I'm trying to look for him because we're having a good time inside. He's not. And I go outside and I see he decides to pick a fight with this guy that's 6'5", tall white guy, muscular guy. You could tell the guy was an athlete. And I'm looking at him from a distance. I'm like, just please don't swing. What does my friend do? He's 5'8". He swings. So I'm 6'5", 240. He knows I'm with him. So he knows if something happens, we're with a group. So I go up, me and this guy are fighting. It's a terrible brawl. Next thing you know, 35 kids run out. And these are all UC Santa Barbara frat house to defend that guy. And we're fighting. These guys are hitting me in the back of the head. We're getting jumped. It's terrible. Out of my four friends, four of us are there together. Armin, the guy that started the fight, he's in there fighting, no problem. The other guy, Harmik, is behind me. People are hitting me from the back. He's swinging at everybody. He's fighting. We can't find one of our friends. He's not there. We can't find him. We're looking around. We can't find him. Cops show up. We run away. He's by the car in a parking lot. We say, why are you in the car in a parking lot? He says, what am I going to do getting into a fight with 35 people? I say, your buddies are getting into a fight. They're getting jumped. You're running away. You know what happened that moment, Peter? Here's what happened. In that moment, nobody talked about it again because it was awkward. But everybody made a note back here. Mm-hmm. Everybody took notes. And they realized who they can count on if something was to really go down. Today, a similar thing is going to happen when you watch everybody and you kind of see that everyone's character is being revealed. But at the same time, you're also seeing, I never thought that guy was as tough as he was. I never knew she was as tough as she was. So for those that want to be heroes, your spirit's going to get bigger today and the world's going to know who you are and future looks bright. For everybody else, you may want to consider what your next moves are going to be because these next moves can dictate the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life.
Such a different perspective. I love that. So talk about the importance when you say try to figure out your next move. Let me ask you this. There was a lot of reacting because of lack of preparation. 2008 was more predictable. Now it's like a black swan. What's the first thing you did? Were you fully prepared, or what's the first thing you did company-wise, team-wise, employee-wise when you heard about the quarantine, the virus, the lockdown? Did things drastically change for you, or were you like, I was expecting this?
No, not at all. So this is a curveball, right? Sometimes in life you're going to be surprised, but there are things that we prepared for. Like for instance, when we went and raised $10 million a couple of years ago, 2016, 2017, when we raised that money, we didn't use 100% of 10 million. We may use 30% of 10 million. The money's still sitting in the bank, and we're sitting on tens of millions now in the bank, but we don't have to worry about it. But we got the money in case something were to happen. We're not going to get hit. So for us, that's the one part. It could have been market. It could have been re-election. It could be Trump doesn't get re-elected. A Bernie gets elected. What if Joe Biden gets what if new laws change? What if a war takes place, U.S. and China? What if Venezuela gets worse? What if oil gets worse? There's a lot of different moving parts. I mean, once this thing clears up, we still are dealing with 10 different issues. You know what I'm saying? We still are dealing with Iran issues, Saudi Arabia issues, with Russia and oil, with tariffs, and Japan and South Korea. So many different things are pending. That's the one part about being prepared. Pandemic is a different story. I'm in LA. I took my wife and my kids because I'm in LA. We're about to have our board meeting with Oscar De La Hoya, all our investors. It's the meeting that we do quarterly. And my senior board member, who's 70 years old, who was a former CEO and president of Hartford Insurance Company. It's a big company. And he cancels. He calls, he says, Pat, I can't make it. I said, why not? He says, because of coronavirus. I said, are you kidding me? He says, no, I'm serious. I said, wait a minute, you're not coming to the board meeting. And this is not a person that cancels anything. He says, I'm telling you, I'm not. Then the second board member calls me and he says, I'm not either. Why not? I don't want to come from New York to LA. And next thing you know, I have to visit my parents. If I give them the virus, I'm going to feel guilty. My parents are in their 70s. So this thing cancels. I'm staying at Beverly Hills Hilton. I start calling around. I said, okay, everything getting canceled. Disney shut down. Disney World shut down. I'm about to take my kids to Universal Studios. Universal Studios shut down. So then I said, we got to think something here. I looked at my wife. I said, babe, we're not going to stay here for 3 days. We're flying back to LA. So we flew back to LA. When I fly back to LA, I take out a paper and pen and I start making decisions on everything. Number one was up, which is my parents. called my mom, called my dad, any elderly people that I know, and I told him, my dad's a very stubborn man. He wasn't willing to stay home. I said, you got to stay home. Finally, he said, no problem. He's a very hardcore Middle Eastern man. So they were taken care of. Then I called siblings, friends, peers, and kind of talked to them. And then it was wife, kids, employees, sales leaders, investors, staff, executives, everybody here. So I have three directions I need to go to. So step number one for me was heavy duty research. And what is heavy duty research? Heavy duty research in this virus. At that point, we didn't do anything. Once I did the research, one part was on the effects of it. And I wanted to know what the R naught rate is, like how contagious is it? How fast does it spread? Is it as bad as measles? Is it as bad as those, or is it as deadly as Ebola or SARS or any of this stuff? That's just my own research. I'm not a doctor, but I want to do research on my own. Then I went and researched effects of pandemics 6 months later. So I went and looked up the last 10 big pandemics we've had ever since we've had the stock market, whether it's AIDS, whether it's Ebola, whether it's SARS, whether it's any of these things. And when you looked at it, the only one that took it, where the market was down 6 months after the beginning of the pandemic, the only one, but both US and globally, the only one that was down 6 months later was AIDS. AIDS scared the hell out of everybody. People were afraid of having sex when AIDS came out. People were afraid of going to nightclubs. Like, think about it, Peter. People were worried about going to nightclubs and thinking about that one night stand. They're like, why am I going to a nightclub? What for? It's not like I would do it anyways. What if I die? So think about that kind of fear. That's a pretty bad fear right there to have. So it showed that pandemics, 6 months later, everybody goes back to normal life. So if it started in, say, the peak started February, and that's when we really started getting some cases, that means by, July or so, this thing's going to settle down. So I know a lot of people were saying April. I don't think it's going to be April. I was prepared till July. So I said, worst case scenario, let's go to July. If these cases double every 4 days, 6 days, 10 days, what is it going to look like? We ran out our own map, our own data. I said, it's going to get pretty ugly here in the next few months. So then I looked and I said, my employees, let me talk to my employees. So I held a meeting. It was like a forum. I wish I could upload the video for people to see how I talk to the employees. I said, so tell me what questions you got, concerns you got. And I went an hour and a half. These 100 employees are asking me questions. What do I do? My husband is a nurse and we have 2 kids. He can't do that. We can't do babysitting. So I can't work out of here. You can work from home. I'm pregnant. Go work from home. I'm over 50. You go work from home. So I sent 80% of my employees home and I kept 20 of them here. I got about 20 people working right now at the home office. Wow. Okay, that's in Texas. We're not, for full disclosure, we're not in New York. We're not in LA. We're in Texas. Texas is a little bit more conservative. And believe it or not, if you go into the freeway, it's packed. Everybody's driving. It's not like people have shut down. So once the people that are here, we decided who they were and they decided to work out of here, worked out. So that's that part. Then I saw some of the people that were panicking that didn't want to be here. I said, listen, if you don't want to be here, make your decision. I don't know if I want to be here. We had a certain set of layoffs. I said, look, I'm either going to do the layoffs now, I'm going to do it later. But if we do it now, you can get unemployment early and I'm going to give you a severance. So you have a choice. What do you want to do? If you risk it 2 months, it may be different because I may not need your work, but I'm going to give you the choice. You go now, you'll be one of the first that's going to, okay, thank you for being transparent. Okay, great. Then go, you do what you want to do. And 2 months from now, 3 months from now, if we want you back, we want you to come back if you want to come back and get the job. So you're not fired, it's laid off. Perfect. So we did that. Once I did all that stuff, then I had to take cash out because you have to have cash in hand. And I'm not talking about, I have a lot of cash. I'm sitting, obviously, my message is not cash is trash. I'm on the opposite side. You need cash because there's opportunities today. Actual cash, like you actually need to have cash. You actually need to buy some kind of protection for your family if you got kids. Maybe a basic gun or a shotgun, something like that to protect your family. And then buy gold, maybe buy a kilo of gold. If you can't afford to buy a kilo of gold for $53,000, maybe go buy $5,000 of gold, $10,000 of gold, just for pure preparation that you know for yourself where you're at. Once we did that, then everything was about pivot. Then it was mindset, what kind of mindset I need, what kind of skill set I need. Everything needed to be switched to Zoom, go to webinar. We needed to learn 3-way closing. I had to come up with scripts. I'm in my office right now and the light went off. I had to come up with scripts. We had to come up with scripts on how to sell today on Zoom, on GoToWebinar. We had to get better at qualifying on how to sell with that. So, and then mindset-wise was pivot, adjusting, adapting. Anybody that learns how to pivot, adjust, adapt today, they have an upper hand. So that's kind of what we did with all this stuff going on.
Well, it's crazy because everyone that I've talked to, and I've had 12, 13 conversations with some heavy, heavy hitters, you know, every single one of them, they all pivoted pretty quickly. But the majority of society and business owners, I like the people, especially less than 1 million, like annually, they pivot slowly. But you did something that's even more intelligent. You did heavy research before. I don't think a lot of people did that part because A, it makes your head hurt. B, it just takes a lot of actual focus and energy. So the heavy research allowed you to pivot the most effectively you could based on what you learned. I love that. And what I like about you too, Patrick, is you're very tactical and logical when most people are emotional. So even in a crisis, you don't let the emotions at all run anything. It's like, I got to get tactical throughout this crisis. In terms of pivoting, what do you tell the person right now? Yes, they know to pivot. What are some things to think about in terms of their business right now going online? Is it focus on Zoom, get the scripts ready, focus on skills that pay, social media? What are your thoughts?
So great question. Look, I did a call the other day for a company. I sit on their board, and they had $45 million that they wanted to give to their salespeople the next 3 to 6 months, just so they don't quit. So 6 months from now, when everything goes back to normal, it's good to go. I said, why would you give $45 million to your sales guys to keep them? I said, you think you're teaching good habits. Why would you be doing that? Well, this is one of the ways we're trying to. I said, stimulus doesn't work. I mean, I understand some people that have offices and all that stuff, but you can't take that approach.
Especially not with A players. Especially not with A players.
Not at all. And A players are offended if you give them money. A players are kind of like, listen, man, I can make my own money. So I said, look, here's my suggestion. They said, what? I said, what is your process of selling your product? That's the thing you got to look at. So, for instance, if I'm a real estate person, what is the process of selling my product? I have to look at what part of real estate I'm going to be struggling with. So if I know homes are not going to be selling today, okay, and people are not going to want to go into homes today, I'm going to have to pivot ASAP into Airbnb model, and I have to learn how to lease. And maybe I'm going to get into the market of saying, look, a lot of people are getting Airbnbs for their parents because they want them to go to a place to be protected away from anybody. So my target audience would be coming to somebody like you and saying, hey, Peter, do you have elderly parents? Yes. How old are they? 67, 63. What is your method? Are they around other people? No, they're not. Are they around other people? Yes, they are. What's your approach? So I would pivot to find an Airbnb. I got 6 places here, $1,000 a month for 6 months, $6,000. I make some commission on that. If anything, like we sell insurance, right? So our product is insurance and annuities. And our model entirely is built on face-to-face. So the entire model that we have is face-to-face. I sit down with you and your wife. I say, hey, how are you guys doing? Great. What's on your mind? Do you have insurance in place? Do you have retirement in place? Do you have any of this stuff in place? No, then I sell you, but it's face-to-face, right? What we did immediately is I took down all the products that we sell, and I looked at markets that need help today. For example, we typically sell to people that are 25 to 45 years old. So Peter, you would be in a market because you're 25 to 45, you're healthy, you're easy to underwrite, you're in shape, you take care of yourself, you're a family guy, you're an easy person to underwrite. But today, my approach flipped. So we went and looked at final expense policies, and we went and looked at annuities. Our biggest month ever in annuities we did was $8.75 million in a month. Like 170 annuities we do in a month. This month in March, we did 320 annuities, $25 million. We've never done $25 million of annuities. And last March, we sold 5,021 policies. This March, we sold 6,300 policies in a single month. Why? Because of pivoting and paying attention to a target audience that I wasn't paying attention to before. So now let's just say you're selling a product that you can't do that with. Hypothetically, if you can't do that with, you got to very, very quickly figure out a way to find a service that you can sell today that is not needed to be face-to-face, that people actually need. How you do that? With the technology platform that you use, whether it's Zoom. If you're not good at Zoom, you got to learn how to Zoom. You got to learn how to go to webinar. You got to learn how to do FaceTime, all of those things. And today, Peter, more than ever before, the ability to sell and the ability to negotiate is more important than ever before. And last but not least, if none of this stuff applies to you, I held a conference call with all my executives. And I did a live. One guy asked a question saying, I'm hearing a lot of people in auto insurance are losing their clients because they're canceling their policies. I said, only lazy agents lose clients. Lazy agents always lose clients. Lazy advisors always lose clients. Why? Because they're afraid to pick this up and call. The reason why they're afraid of calling their existing clients is because they're worried the client is going to say what? I need to cancel what I have, right? Where that client, I guarantee you, people are not calling them. So if somebody makes the call to customers today and builds those relationships, they are never going to forget about you. I'm working at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. 9/11 happens. The guy in the corner office who was making $700 grand a year, he was the big dog at the office, making 700 grand a year was a lot of money. We're like, oh my gosh, we all would like to have his life. 9/11 takes place. The next day, he's not calling any of his clients. Like, he was frozen. You'd look at him, he was so afraid because it's all stops. Because he didn't call his clients, a month and a half later, his income went from 700 grand to $70,000. From 700 to 70K. That's a drastic difference in life, to go from 700 to 70K. No more going to the country club, no more coming to the office in your shorts at 1 o'clock. You can't do that kind of stuff anymore, simply because he was afraid of calling clients. The most basic thing you can do today is call every single one of your clients and just ask them open-ended question. Peter, how you doing? So what do you think about this madness? That's a simple question. And then leave the conversation with giving them some hope, some reassurance that you're there for them.
So no pivot can be detrimental. And you're saying the right pivot can actually give you an advantage, where you're breaking records right now as well. So the right pivot with the right research, thinking logically and tactically, is going to help you come out at an even higher level of success and growth than before, which is a different way to think, Patrick, because most people right now are in fear. I want to end with these two things. One, I know we both don't fully hit on or talk a lot about, I don't want to say the average American, but people that maybe aren't into the personal growth and aren't into entrepreneurship in a way. But how do you tell the average American right now that's in massive fear and panic to shift to confidence? How does that happen right now to the average family that right now is just literally trembling because they don't have a job, money, they're in fear because they watch the news all day? What do you tell them?
That's a great question. So look, if there's ever been a philosophy that is very much needed to study today, it's Stoicism. Here's why. Marcus Aurelius, during his time, there's a video on YouTube everybody has to watch. I don't know who put it up. I wish I could give the guy credit. We're recording. I'd look it up right now, but I don't want to do that. Just go type in Marcus Aurelius pandemic. Marcus Aurelius pandemic. Marcus Aurelius pandemic. And the video tells the story of the time where the Roman Empire went through a major pandemic, which I think 18 million people died. And he had to handle it during those times when this pandemic took place. And his approach on how he went about it, there's so much we can learn about it today, right? Marcus Aurelius pandemic. So what is Stoicism? Here's really Stoicism. Stoicism is, don't spend a lot of time over things you have zero control over. What does that mean? If you're not best friends with Fauci, if you are not asked by Trump to be on his camp, if you don't work with Pence, if you're not any of those guys that's working in that world, what are you panicking about? You can't have any kind of major influence today anyways, because you're not on the inside, right? Everything you're doing is just unnecessary to not be able to make the move. You just have to look at stuff on how you can pivot to it, not things you can change. So if you don't have any control over any of those decisions right now, you can't drive yourself nuts over it. That's number one. Number two, what do you have control over? What I did, the first thing, I wrote 3 things down. I have control over my health. I have to figure out what I need to do with health. So if you come into our office, you'll see like hundreds of these sitting around everywhere, wipes. We have cleansers everywhere, gloves, whatever you want. We have it everywhere. And when I go into my house, I have a 63-year-old nanny that lives with us. When I walk in, she asks me, come straight to the washing machine. I go into the laundry room. I take all my clothes off. She puts it all in the washer. Everything goes in the washer. Wash my hands. I can't pick up my kids, hug my kids, kiss them until I wash my face. I wash my hands. Then I can kiss them, as hard as that is, right? So that's the preparation side where you can't control. The other part is wealth protection. If you have money in a 401k, if you have money a little bit in your retirement account, you got to figure out a way to protect it right now because that's your wealth. But most importantly, it's income protection. Income protection is the following. Look, like this, everything's going to be gone. Let me explain. I'll give you good examples here. When Steve Jobs died, we all thought Apple was going out of business. When Steve Jobs died, his net worth was $6.2 billion. Steve Jobs' wife right now is worth somewhere between 25 to $35 billion. Apple increased from valuation from $100 billion to today $1.1 trillion. Tim Cook took the value of Apple over $1 trillion. He increased it. Tim Cook, when Steve Jobs died, right? But we thought Apple was going to be gone. When Kobe Bryant passed away, that was how long ago? A couple months ago.
2 months, yeah.
We were all devastated by it. I mean, I interviewed the guy, we brought him down, and we were getting ready to do some stuff together. I can tell you where I was at. I was at Seasons 52 when I got the news. I thought it was an ugly prank people were playing that they played on Paul Walker years ago. I'm like, there's no way in the world, right? You know, when John F. Kennedy died, assassination on a president, that is some scary stuff. America overcame that. When Martin Luther King died, assassination on one of the most powerful men that changed the scope of things in America. America was okay afterwards because he set an example of leadership. Robert Kennedy died, assassination. Then you have an assassination attempt on Reagan, okay? We thought it was over with. Then you have 9/11, then you have 2009, then you have this. This is gonna pass. I know it's what's the word to say this too shall pass because we keep hearing about it regularly. It's going to. The concern isn't it when this passes. The concern is, how are you gonna be different when it passes? You know, the movie, The Count of Monte Cristo, right? The Count of Monte Cristo. The other day, my wife calls me. She says, babe, our son is having a little bit of an emotional breakdown, our oldest son. So what are you talking about? He says he just got emotional. He doesn't really, my son is a very stoic, strong, tough guy. He doesn't like to show weakness to anybody. So he kind of got emotional. I said, what did he say? He says, well, he was saying, you know, where's Papa? Papa's always here once a month. We fly him in from LA. I want to go to school. I want to see my teachers. I want to go do this. Why is dad working so hard? What is going on right now? Why can't they fix this coronavirus? I thought everything was going to be all right. I thought we believed in God, all this stuff.
Wow.
So I said, don't worry, babe. I'll talk to them. Which, by the way, if any parent is watching this, you know what I'm talking about. It's very emotional because it's your kid. So I go home early and I said, listen, guys, let's go upstairs. We got to talk. It's me, my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old son. My daughter went with her mom and she went to sleep. And we sat down on the bed. I said, so tell me what's on your mind. My son's like, nothing. I said, are you a little bit concerned? No, I'm good. I said, Daddy, it's us. What are you thinking? He says, well, Dad, what's going on here? You know, I thought you said when scientists and entrepreneurs come together, they solve problems. I said, they do, but they can't do it in a week or two. He says, but why is this going on? What are we going to do with this? And he starts going through all this stuff, right? I said, you know what, buddy? Here's what you got to realize. I said, there's a movie called The Count of Monte Cristo. In this movie, this man is in love with this girl. And he wants to marry this girl. This other man who wants his girl comes and takes his girl away from him and lies about him and puts him in prison. He goes to jail. He says, why would anybody do such a thing? Well, sometimes that happens to you. So what happens to this man? He says, he goes to jail. In jail, he meets a man who is very well read. In jail, this man gives Monte Cristo the right books to read. He reads these books. He comes out of jail. He changes his names. He ends up becoming one of the most powerful, richest people. And he puts the most incredible party together where he flies in his helicopter. And you know who he invites to his party? He said who? He invites the girl and he invites her husband. The girl comes to the party. She sees him. They make eye contact. And she says, I recognize those eyes. And he looks at her because he's still crazy about her. And then he ends up fighting the guy. And he ends up taking his girl back. And she's always been crazy about him. I just got the chills all over my body.
Me too.
I said, you know why this happened? He says, what? I said, because sometimes in life, Tico, we have to disappear and come back stronger than ever before and surprise the world. I said, guys, this is a great time for us to disappear and get better. What do you mean, Daddy? I said, every day I want you guys to shoot 50 shots and you make them. I want you to swim 25 laps in the pool. I want you to read 4 chapters every day. I want you to do your homework that your school sends you. I want you to work on your boxing. I want you to work on everything we're doing, because when it comes down to going back to school, you're going to look better. You're going to think smart. You're going to be strong. You're going to be a better leader. Everyone's going to notice the difference. Next thing you know, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to get mentally and emotionally. I said, that's exactly it, baby. That's what we want to do. So Peter, you know, you asked that question and people are watching this. Like, I understand being worried and concerned. It's normal. None of us are machines. It's not like we wake up and we're robots. We don't have feelings. Even the toughest person in the world is behind closed doors thinking about their wives, their kids, their husbands, their family, their moms and dads. You have to be thinking about that stuff. We don't have, this is red blood. All of us have red blood. It's not like it's blue. Well, all of us are red. All of us have that heart, that blood in us. But use this as an opportunity that when everything goes back to normal, that we have to go back to our work, our jobs, you are mentally, emotionally stronger than ever before. That when you go back, no one recognizes the new 3.0 version of you, 4.0 version of you. That's what I would say to everybody that's watching and saying, what do I do during times like this?
You're a different breed, and you are definitely on your game. Thanks for sharing, man. I think that perspective is what everybody needs right now when there's so much negativity, so many toxic thoughts out there. So much respect to you for who you are, for being a world-class human being first, businessman, dad, husband, friend, boss, CEO. Respect, man. Let me know if there's anything I can do to continue spreading your message. I love the valuetainment, what you do, and I'm excited to see you come out even stronger than before as well the next couple months. So appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.